You think they care about you. But the moment you stop bending, the mask slips. Suddenly, their smiles tighten, their voices harden, their movements falter. They don't panic because you left. They panic because your silence steals their script. You were supposed to explain, defend, and chase. You were supposed to need them. Now you don't. And in that void, their power collapses. In minutes, you'll see why indifference is the most dangerous weapon of all. You've been trained to believe that caring more gives you leverage, that constant availability proves loyalty, that explaining your every move makes you trustworthy. But reality is colder. The world doesn't reward devotion, it exploits it. When you're too present, they stop valuing you. When you're too invested, they stop respecting you. What happens when you pull away is not rejection, it's revelation. You see how quickly their balance shatters, how their sense of control collapses without your compliance. That panic you trigger? That's the hidden signal that power has shifted. And if you master it, they'll never look at you the same again.
This is why you're here, to learn the laws no one dares to teach you. At Curiosity to Wisdom, we don't feed you comfort, we give you weapons. If you're ready to trade weakness for presence, hit subscribe now. Every lesson is a step closer to becoming untouchable. You have been carrying a disease of the mind so subtle that most never detect it, yet so destructive that it corrodes the very foundations of your influence. It is the belief that your value is tied to your constant availability, that your worth is reflected in how quickly you answer, how thoroughly you explain, how consistently you appear whenever someone calls. You have been conditioned by culture, by relationships, by weakness masquerading as virtue, to equate responsiveness with importance. But in truth, every time you rush to meet a demand, every time you volunteer your presence without being strategically scarce, you bleed away fragments of your authority. You are like a well that never runs dry, and because of that, no one truly treasures the water. They take and take, not because they respect you, but because you have trained them to believe you'll always be there, endlessly replenishing, endlessly giving. Look closely at your behavior. Notice how often you offer explanations, thinking that clarity will earn respect. It never does. Every extra word is a surrender of gravity, a public announcement that you need validation. Notice how quickly you reply, as if the speed of your response proves your significance. It doesn't. It proves only that you are tethered, waiting, anxious for recognition. The paradox of human psychology is this: people do not admire what is constantly accessible. They admire what they must fight to keep, what they risk losing if they fail to nurture it. And by being ever present, ever willing, you have killed the hunger that makes others value you. This is the rot at the core of your presence, the bug that dissolves authority like acid on metal. Until you purge it completely, you will remain replaceable, disposable, and ordinary. The world has no respect for what it can summon at will. The truth is harsh but necessary. The old you, the one who believed that being endlessly available was a form of strength, is gone. Dead. That persona was buried with the countless explanations and desperate responses you gave away like cheap currency. What rises in its place must be colder, sharper, untethered from the need to be understood. Respect does not come from being accessible. It comes from being undeniable. And the one who replaces the old, you will finally understand that. Centuries ago, Niccolo Machiavelli studied rulers who held power through fear, scarcity, and precision. He wrote not for the masses, but for those who dared to step outside morality and into strategy. He warned, "It is far safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose." The point was not cruelty. The point was control. Presence creates gravity. Absence creates terror. Imagine the Borgias in Renaissance Italy. When a duke vanished from court for a single evening, rumors of betrayal, rebellion, and death would spread like fire. That absence, weaponized, was more powerful than any speech.
This is the timeless law. Caring too openly weakens your frame. Holding back tightens it. Silence destabilizes the weak because it forces them to reveal how dependent they were on your performance. You are not here to play servant. You are here to create consequence. There exists a form of power so unnerving that most people cannot wield it because it demands the discipline to do absolutely nothing, the black hole. Frame is not about aggression, charm, or cleverness. It is about silence, stillness, and gravity. Just as a black hole in space bends everything toward it without moving, your refusal to chase, explain, or defend pulls others inward and reverses the hierarchy. In a world addicted to noise, explanation, and self-justification, silence becomes terrifying. It forces others to confront themselves. Picture a boardroom. The air is tense. The stakes are high. A rival, sensing weakness, accuses you of carelessness. The trap is clear. Most people would rush to defend themselves, flooding the room with excuses and rationalizations. But not you. You remain still, your expression unreadable, your body unshaken. Seconds pass like minutes. The silence grows heavier, and suddenly, the accuser, not you, is on display. Their words hang awkwardly in the air, unsupported by your reaction. The room shifts. Eyes begin to turn, not toward you but toward them, the one who looks desperate for validation. You have not defended yourself, yet you have already won. The principle is simple. Stop defending. Stop explaining. Stop surrendering your power through words. When challenged, answer with precision and nothing more. 3 lines are all you ever need. Cold, stripped of emotion, impossible to debate. Say, "That's incorrect. Let silence burn." Then, "We're done." Another pause. Finally, "Next point." Then seal your mouth as if welded shut. The silence that follows is not weakness. It is a mirror that exposes their insecurity. But there is danger here. The black hole frame collapses if you soften it with nervous laughter, with an apologetic smile, or with a flood of explanations. The power lies in restraint. Once you fill the silence, you give back what you had taken, the frame, the gravity, the control. Your strength is measured in how long you can endure stillness without breaking. You'll know you've succeeded when the room tilts in your favor. They begin scrambling, over-explaining, talking too fast, desperate to close the void your silence has opened. They lose rhythm, they lose composure, and in that reversal, authority transfers to you without a single wasted word. There is a wound sharper than words, colder than rejection, and more unforgettable than direct conflict: absence. Presence entertains, but absence unsettles. The vanishing knife is the art of cutting without lifting a blade, removing yourself so cleanly, so silently, that others bleed in your absence. The principle is simple. Your withdrawal strikes deeper than your presence ever could. What people can touch, they take for granted. What suddenly disappears, they crave with an intensity bordering on obsession. Picture a social circle where you have always been the eager spark, the entertainer, the reliable presence, the one who carries the atmosphere. Every gathering you show up, every conversation you reply, every demand you meet with energy. And then, without warning, you stop. You decline an invitation. You delay a response. You vanish, not dramatically, not bitterly, but coldly and cleanly. No explanation, no apology. Suddenly, your silence speaks louder than 1,000 performances. Conversations shift. People begin to ask, where are they? Rumors stir. Curiosity grows. That void becomes a knife, carving into their comfort, reminding them of how much they relied on you. The execution requires precision. Withdrawal must never be sloppy or emotional. Do not sulk. Do not explain. Instead, create distance with subtle cuts. Delay responses by hours, not minutes, as though their urgency has no claim on your time. Cancel appearances without dressing it up with excuses. When pressed for a reason, offer only a blade-thin reply. I had other priorities. Then seal your lips. Say nothing more. The silence will gnaw at them, forcing their imagination to do the work your presence once did. The less you justify, the sharper the wound. The danger lies in making your withdrawal theatrical. If you vanish in bitterness, announcing your grievances or telegraphing your strategy, you destroy the power of the move. A knife does not explain itself before cutting, it simply cuts. Your absence must be clean, unannounced, untraceable. To speak it aloud is to ruin it. You'll know the vanishing knife has pierced when the reaction outweighs your action. They will overcompensate, sending more messages, reaching out more often, attempting to fill the silence with attention. They may begin to speak about you in rooms where you are not present, because your ghost has expanded beyond the space your body once filled. This is the paradox of absence. By being less, you become more. This is where most people stop. They hear these laws and retreat back into comfort, back into weakness. But not you. You've stayed this far because you sense what's possible when you step beyond ordinary psychology. Add curiosity to wisdom. We don't give you slogans. We give you psychological weapons that alter the way people see you. Subscribe now. Step deeper. Because what's coming next is the protocol that rewires rejection itself into fuel. Rejection has been painted as a death sentence, a final verdict on your value, when in truth it is nothing more than information, an intelligence signal exposing fault lines in others, not in you. From childhood, you were conditioned to treat no as humiliation, as if someone else's refusal diminished your worth. But this conditioning is a lie, one designed to keep you obedient, compliant, and desperate for approval. The reality is harsher, yet liberating. Rejection is not an ending. It is data. Every denial is a revelation of weakness, insecurity, or misalignment in the other person. The moment you reframe rejection as intelligence, you step into control. The stance is simple but lethal. Never react, never chase, never collapse. Weak men beg, weak men argue. Weak men turn rejection into an autopsy of their own inadequacy. You will not. You will treat every no as theater, a performance meant to provoke emotion, not a decree that binds your fate. When they withhold, you do not explain. When they deny, you do not pursue. You let silence fall heavy and remove yourself from the stage because absence is more persuasive than pleading. Follow the 4-step protocol with precision. Step 1. Do not react. Their rejection is not a verdict. It is a tactic, conscious or unconscious. Your stillness disarms it. Step 2. Withdraw your presence. Access to you must end instantly, cleanly. A denied invitation, a cold dismissal, an insult, whatever the form, you sever contact without theatrics. Step 3. Rewrite the story. Refuse to script yourself as the unwanted. Instead, burn into your mind the truth. They could not hold me. Power is perception, and you are the author of your own narrative. Step 4. Return, not with apology, not with eagerness, but with gravity. Time will do the work. Absence begins. When you reappear, you must be colder, sharper, more untouchable than before. That return transforms rejection into myth. Suddenly they question whether they miscalculated, whether they lost something irreplaceable. Understand this. Rejection is the crucible where weak men dissolve into bitterness, but it is also the arena where strong men are mythologized. They will not remember your protests. They will remember your silence. They will not replay your explanations. They will replay the absence that made them doubt themselves. To collapse is to confirm their judgment. To withdraw is to rewrite the frame. And to return, elevated and unreachable, is to make rejection your sharpest weapon.
Theory is nothing without application. Power is meaningless unless it manifests in moments that shift reality. And the battlefield of perception is everywhere. Negotiations, relationships, workplaces, even casual conversations. In every arena, you are being tested, measured, and categorized, usually in the first seconds of interaction. The weak stumble because they try to argue, to explain, to justify their position. The powerful understand that explanation is the language of subordinates, while silence, scarcity, and precision are the tools of those who command frames. Imagine a negotiation. You know your worth, yet they slide a paper across the table offering less, insult disguised as compromise. The ordinary man would argue, plead his case, throw numbers around, desperately trying to prove his value. You do the opposite. You close your folder, rise calmly, and prepare to leave. The silence is deafening. The room tilts in your favor because your action communicates the truth. You cannot be bought cheaply. You cannot be lured into debate. In that moment, they scramble, not because you begged, but because you withdrew. Now picture a different stage. You are dating, and someone probes your boundaries with dismissive remarks, subtle tests of your emotional stability. The insecure would defend, laugh nervously, or protest their worth. But you do not perform. You turn your head slightly, go quiet, and let the silence choke their performance. The test backfires. Their words collapse under their own weight because you refuse to feed them oxygen. They are left wondering if they just exposed themselves as needy while you remain untouchable. Or consider the workplace. A colleague, eager for validation, attempts to outshine you in a meeting. They flood the air with words, trying to dominate through volume and speed. You wait, unshaken, until their energy burns out. Then you deliver. One concise, surgical statement. Calm, precise, final. The entire room shifts back into your orbit because real authority is not loud, it is weighted. Understand this. None of these moves are games. They are controlled demonstrations of presence, indifference, and scarcity. Every social environment is a theater. You are either an actor scrambling for applause or the director orchestrating the scene. When you master absence, silence, and restraint, you no longer compete for attention, you dictate it. Power is not won through noise, but through controlled gravity. Each move you make, each word you release, signals whether you lead frames or collapse into them. To master presence, you must hardwire habits that strip away weakness and replace it with steel. These are not tips, they are disciplines. They are the operating system of authority. Lower your pitch. A high, frantic voice betrays anxiety. A low, deliberate tone anchors authority. Speak slower than those around you. The faster they talk, the more desperate they appear. The slower you move, the heavier your presence becomes, as though every word you deliver must be earned. Use fewer words. Explanations are the language of servants. A ruler does not explain, he declares. Your sentences should be surgical, clean, impossible to misinterpret. After a statement, let silence do the cutting. Do not rush to fill the air. Let others squirm in the emptiness you create. The silence will do the work your words cannot. Train your tongue in precision. Replace sorry with noted. Replace please with next. Every word either leaks authority or sharpens it. Soft language is submission disguised as politeness. Cold, stripped language signals control. Reject over-availability. Scarcity is the foundation of desire. Delay texts, delay calls, delay your response. By not being instantly accessible, you train others to respect your time instead of consuming it. Social toggles become your weapon. Vanish when overexposed, reappear only when demand has silently built. Each disappearance sharpens your value. Each reappearance resets the hierarchy. When attacked, never justify. Justification is surrender. Reply with 3 cold words. That's incorrect. Then move on. When challenged, lean back, remain still, and let the silence coil around them until they are forced to over-explain, to reveal insecurity. In their scramble, you win. Above all, remember this law. Indifference is not passivity. Passivity is weakness. Indifference is weaponized restraint. It is the art of showing that you do not need their approval, their attention, or their validation to remain immovable. The more they push, the deeper you sink into stillness, and the more gravity bends in your direction. Master these protocols, and your very presence becomes a weapon. At this point, there is no room for hesitation. The old identity must be buried without ceremony. The needy one, the version of you that mistook attention for respect, that clung to every interaction as though it were validation, must be put in the ground. That figure was a beggar in disguise, performing for scraps of approval, mistaking endless availability for strength. He was predictable, replaceable, disposable. That self is not you anymore. That self is dead. From this moment forward, you no longer operate as flesh alone. You operate as a myth. Understand the difference. The ordinary man enters a room and struggles to hold attention. The myth does not even need to be present. His absence commands more weight than another's presence. The myth is not simply seen or heard. He is calculated around. Decisions bend in his direction because the thought of his reaction, his silence, his disapproval, his indifference, already exerts force. You must become this presence, the silence that tightens their chest, the shadow that lingers in their mind long after you have left the conversation. You must be the name they whisper in hesitation, the unspoken weight that shapes their choices. When you stop chasing, when you refuse to explain, when you embrace indifference as a weapon, your value multiplies. People cannot escape you because they cannot escape the narrative they've built around you. You become inescapable precisely because you are unreachable. You are no longer reactive. You no longer scramble for position or beg for acknowledgement. You are the axis they orbit, the figure they measure themselves against. Every move they make is influenced by what you might do, how you might respond, even when you offer no response at all. This is the shift from being a man who asks to becoming the figure they must anticipate. Cold, calm, calculated. These are no longer adjectives. They are your armor. And with that armor, you cross a threshold few ever dare to step through. You cease to be ordinary. You cease to be available. You cease to be explainable. You become untouchable, not because you declared it, but because you withdrew, withheld, and let gravity bend in your direction. That is the transformation. That is the myth. This is not casual knowledge. This is a vow. If you accept these laws, you cannot return to the weaker self who begged for validation. You cannot crawl back into the comfort of over-explaining and over-giving. From this moment, you choose scarcity over availability, gravity over noise, control over chaos. Subscribe to Curiosity to Wisdom, now, not as entertainment, but as initiation. Step forward or remain ordinary. The choice is final. When you stop caring, they stop controlling.